Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Nerd Social, coming to you almost 20 minutes late. I am Nathan.
And I'm Colin.
Sorry we had some technical difficulties. So, tonight we are just going to talk about Titans episode 12, the penultimate episode of the season for season 3. It is entitled Prodigal. We will, as always, go through our spoiler free thoughts about the episode and then jump into more spoilery talk about the episode as we recap and review the episode. So the HBO Max summary for this is: after Nightwing and Red Hood's battle, Rachel and Guard try to save their friend. Meanwhile, Jason questions his allegiance with Barbara. Behind bars, Donna leads her own resistance operation, and Conor helps Blackfire recover her ship. And so, Colin, what do you think of this episode?
Well, I think this episode dipped a little bit for me. I think that it definitely was. It wasn't as good as, say, the last couple of ones where we were talking. We were very good in terms of the storylines. I think they were this one and a little bit consistent at times, and I'll get into that in the spoiler part of it. But I just feel as though there are definitely uneven parts to it. There was one part I remember that it didn't make any sense to me, but it may be a plot twist for something else later on in the last episode. One of the predictions that we made, that I think I made last week, did come true. So that's something that was very interesting in itself. And then the other part that we talked about with Jason Todd, we were very interested in what's going to happen to him. Is there a resolution? Is there a kind of like a resolution to what we talked about last week? We'll see. I mean, not really, but in any case, it was overall very uneven. Even though there were some good parts of the episode, not as bad as, say, like earlier in the season in terms of the unevenness, in terms of the what the heck's going on here. But overall, pretty average, I would say, but not like, definitely not as, say, good as maybe the last couple of weeks where they were able to, again, interwoven a lot of those storylines.
Yeah, I think I liked it a little bit better than you did, but I do agree that it wasn't as good as last week. I it was, and I should say that we recorded this last week, and then we were having similar technical issues last week, and I think the stream from last week is pretty unwatchable. We're probably going to pull it down, and even our recording didn't really record well, but so we were basically just having a conversation with ourselves. But since no one else in the world knows this, we actually liked the last episode pretty well. What I said last week was that they managed to balance the characters and the multiple storylines very well. And I think this episode kind of goes back to what I was saying last week, that this shows more that the show is sort of written in a way for streaming, like binging, not necessarily week to week. This episode wasn't terrible, but there were like plot threads that were a little confusing and also a little superfluous. And so one specifically that came out of nowhere. So it wasn't bad. It wasn't great either. I think last week was really good. This is the penultimate episode, so I'm not sure how they're going to wrap up all this, and I'm not sure how the next episode is going to make a lot of the dips in this season worth it, but we shall see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So with that, I guess we can move on to our spoiler talk of the episode. But before we do that, if you are enjoying the conversation and you want to hear more conversations like this, please like and subscribe to the channel. It definitely helps out the channel and helps us grow. So with that, spoiler talk. Spoiler. Okay. After this. Alright, so where to start. These episodes, because they have so many characters, there's so many storylines. So there was like, I think last week there was like 7. This week there is one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different storylines that you have to keep track of in this episode. Some of them intersect. So at the beginning of the episode, basically we have to deal with Dick dying and then being brought back by Rachel and Gar. So they intersect. Those are the. So there were 7 storylines last week. That the reason that there's 6 is because Gar and Rachel meet up with Dick and save his life. So I don't know. What did you think of this beginning? And also we got another transformation by Gar. He turned into something. He's turned into something rather than a tiger.
Yeah. In that regard, I think that it was pretty creative. But again, we've seen it before with was it Batman v Superman? Yeah, we saw that there at the beginning with I think Bruce falling down the well, and then not the Nolan trilogy, but the Snyder one with Batman v Superman, where he's flying up, with the bats and stuff like that. So it was kind of reminding me of that, which is fine.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
You mean when he fell into the cave? I guess, yeah. At the beginning,
right, exactly. So they did that. They did the same thing with Nightwing this time, carrying him to the Lazarus pit this time. And just like what I predicted last week, even though no one heard, I did predict that they're probably going to bring him back from the dead using the Lazarus pit. And when we got into a very, very interesting discussion about the means to the end of it was like Gar was trying to investigate.
Yeah, because it was super random. It was super random that they were there. Yeah, it was super random that they were there. Right. And then, unless they were going to use it for this. Yeah.
Right, and now it's like, oh, it's so convenient. Oh, the Lazarus pit. Oh, Dick's dying. Okay, we're going to bring him to the Lazarus pit and reclaim him from the dead, because it didn't make sense in the beginning, because we were trying to investigate why Jason went in there in the first place. But they just kind of dropped that and just say, hey, Dick's dying. We got to use that. And so for me, I think there were some interesting choices that were made with Gar changing to a bat. That was kind of interesting, pretty cool. I think that again, Dick going into the Lazarus pit, I saw that a mile away, because once he kind of died, that he was like, okay, we go through that. And then the dream sequence really did not make much sense to me. I mean, for me, it was like, why was he embodying the Joker? Did he hate Jason that much? I mean, that to me did not make sense, when he was in that dream world. And then, I think that for Crane being in the dream, I think maybe because of the fact that he's like the antagonist of the whole season in some ways, that problem made sense. But maybe it would have made more sense if it was Bruce. I mean, we haven't seen Bruce yet, like, since Donna rescued him, like, a couple of episodes back. So why not bring back Bruce? I didn't understand why that was the case and why you have to put Crane in there. So I think the dream sequence was kind of uneven in that regard, and just some of it did not make sense. And then again, the means to the end of going to the Lazarus pit did not make sense, leading up to it. So
yeah, I mean,
again,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't necessarily ding this episode for the previous episode. I could just say that it doesn't make sense in the season, so I can ding the season. The whole Gar subplot was basically to find something to do with that character and that actor for the season, because they didn't have anything else for him to do, and it reminds me of, like, earlier in the season when they didn't have anything for him to do, and he was just like slicing in the air to solve a case or whatever. Like they couldn't think of anything else for him to do. But anyway, they actually had him doing actual detective work later on in the season, but it wasn't clear why he was doing it. But yeah, for this episode, they have a Lazarus pit. They use the Lazarus pit. It was a little cheesy that he was picked up by bats. It was not only that he was picked up from blast, but it seems like they like flew him miles away. Like, or I don't know how far that square is from where, because the Lazarus Pit is supposed to be under Arkham Asylum, right? And Arkham Asylum,
Right.
always in the comics, Arkham Asylum is on the outskirts of the city. So they were in the middle of a city at a square, and they flew him all the way to the outskirts of the city. And it did. I mean, I feel like you would need a lot more bats to pick up a human body, but whatever.
Wait, he didn't fly him up the well just like in Batman v At least that made somewhat sense because this is a well. But yeah, you're right. And I think that also the other part that didn't make sense was Rachel going back and forth from the square, like Rachel and Gar coming back and forth from the square to Arkham Asylum. I did not remember it was in Arkham Asylum. And also the other thing was his clothes. Like, how did he get his pants back? You know, he shed all his clothes, but how did he get his pants back when he was at the Lazarus Pit? I don't get that. What was there? Were there pants in the Lazarus Pit? I don't.
Did he take his clothes off, or did they put him in? I feel like they put him in his suit, didn't he? Didn't they put him in like?
No. When he turned into a bat, he shed all his clothes.
Oh! You said.
And then the Lazarus Pit, he had his pants on.
Okay, you said him.
You know, they showed his abs. Yeah, that's great, but he has pants on. I'm like, how did that happen?
Okay, you said him. I thought you were talking about Dick. Okay, you're talking about Gar. Yeah, no, I think they were just trying to be modest. But I feel like they could have just had him appear naked and not show him naked, and just like and just have her react to the fact that he's naked. And I mean, because that would have made more sense. Because it is distracting he got back to his human form and he had pants. I mean, he like he shed all of his clothes except for his pants. Like he with his. When was he flying around as a bat with mini pants on? It made no sense. They should have just had him naked, or do what they usually do, what they did in the cartoon. I mean, his clothes shrink too, or whatever.
Yeah, his clothes probably shrunk. I don't know. I guess his clothes shrunk.
Anyway, the fever dream is, or the Lazarus Pit dream made sense in parts and not sense in others. I mean, I don't know what they were trying to do with him being the Joker. I think they were trying to call back from the first episode where I never actually got to see the Joker's face. You just saw the crowbar and Jason getting beat up. At a moment, I was like, are they trying to say that he was actually the Joker? He hated Jason so much because he was trying to take his place or whatever. I don't know. He saw his father. Yeah. He saw his father in this dream, and also he saw a future vision of his daughter. So those Starfire genes are really strong because she does not look like him at all.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I was like, hey, are they going to be in items? Like, oh yeah, I forgot that they're an item in the comics. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, that's interesting.
So that's he saw a vision of his father, his dead father, and his future daughter, and that pulled him out of the Lazarus Pit. So that was that was it for Rachel and Gar for this episode. Jason goes in. Well, that's not true. They try to go and find. Superboy, and by that time he's already gone. I'll get to that in a minute. So Jason goes back. Sorry, Dick tries to go and connect with Jason. And this is what I'm talking about by trying to rehabilitate this guy or redeem this guy a little bit too early. I like part of their conversation in that they are like, he's like, what am I, a Titan again? He's like, you're never going to be a Titan again. I feel like that is the right answer. I mean, he murdered one of them. But it's more understandable the way that they wrote it. He, as terrible as he is, he doesn't want to see everyone in the city die. There's another conversation we had, like, what did he think was going to happen? Why was he so gullible? Crane basically had to say that he wanted to kill everyone. I mean, he was a supervillain. Of course, he wants to kill everyone. I mean, why is he so? Why did it take him having to say that I'm going to kill everyone? He actually believed Crane that he wanted to save the city. He was going to become a how? I mean, how stupid and gullible is he? I mean, he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be entrusted with with crime fighting because he doesn't have the common sense to do this. So there's no. I don't think.
Was it because his hate for Dick was so strong that he felt, oh, I really need to be my own person, and then it's like kind of like driven mad because of that. But still, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. He's also mad at Bruce, but still, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They make Jason in this show a lot dumber than the original Jason. Like the original Jason was always like a brute and kind of like brash, but like this is like some common sense sort of things. Like Crane is a supervillain, so they try to. Right. I don't know what the thought process is for the writers because they have to communicate this to the audience. Like, are they saying, okay, they didn't mention that the Lazarus Pit did anything, and any hope of the Lazarus Pit bringing people back wrong was squashed in this episode because Dick seems fine. Yep. So the Lazarus Pit can't be a reason for why it is, what's going on with him. He went to Crane before Crane gave him the drug, so he like that's his regular brain, like with not on any kind of drugs, deciding to go to a supervillain to get help, like. So saying that because he's under the influence that's why some of this is understandable or excusable doesn't really fly either, because who cares if he was under the influence for part of it? He wasn't under the influence before he went to Crane, and I think in that conversation he basically outed himself as Robin, and he agreed to give him everything on Batman, and that's before Crane got him hooked on the drug. So I mean, he has no common sense. He has no common sense, and he has no common sense. He's a terrible crime fighter as well. If he thought that Crane was ever going to end well, that Crane was ever going to give him anything that he was talking about. Like I said, I don't understand why Crane had to say to him, "Oh, I want to kill everyone." That was Crane's plan when Dick and Bruce caught him years ago. He could have just looked up Crane's file and see what his plan was.
But I think that, like I said, maybe he was so blinded by anger and rage that he just lost it and just did not forego all common sense. Maybe that would be an excuse for them to say that, but that still is a stretch, though, don't you think?
Yeah, for weeks though, he didn't he lost control of his senses for weeks. I don't know. The Jason Todd part of this season was kind of the weakest part. Like you could have pulled him out altogether and just had a season with Crane as the main villain, and I think it would have been fine. I think you could have written around him being gone. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to try to wrap that up in one episode, because episode 13 is the last episode of the season. But
right.
Anyway, so as I said, Jason talks to Crane. Crane says he wants to kill everyone, so Jason hooks up with teams up with Dick, and they try to go and get his fear toxin. But of course, Crane is in the Batcave, so he knows where everything is because he has access to everything. So he gets the fear toxin first, and by sending his goons from the police, GCPD, to go pick it up. So I think that's where we leave Crane at the end of this episode, right? I mean, he has all the fear toxin, and he's primed to actually unleash it on the city. The next storyline is Donna and Tim. They're leading his family out of Gotham. And then there's this kind of petulant fight back and forth with Tim and Donna. Like, I sort of see his point, I guess, but I also definitely see her point. Like, she's half Amazonian, half human, and like she said, she trained all her life, and she still died. And he's like, oh, in middle of this crisis, I'm going to become a hero now. Like, I feel like you should train a little bit and to be ready for the next crisis. I understand he wants to be useful.
Right.
I know he wants to be useful, but I feel like he should train a little bit to be actually useful in the next crisis. But anyway, there's some petulant sniping back and forth. I assume they're going to give him. I assume they're going to give him his moment so he can show that he's a hero in the next episode. But
right,
there wasn't much.
Yeah, I just didn't think why he was so like. I mean, I understand in the in the afterlife. The afterlife and with the bridge, I think it changed him a lot. But at the same reality now that he had, like you said, he hasn't trained yet. Like, he can't, like, yes, he has, like, all, like what Donna said. He has all the equipment. He has the skills and all of that. But he hasn't trained one bit in terms of physical combat and stuff like that. He hasn't trained any of that yet. So it's a huge leap for the audience to kind of make that jump to say, look, he can actually be Robin. It's like, no, you cannot be Robin like that because he's not physically there yet. And yeah, his dad was a police officer, great, but did his dad like train him in all those type of tactics or something like that? Maybe. But even so, it doesn't make any sense for him to be Robin. But you're right. It could be that he has a heroic moment, like a superhero type of moment in the last episode, which kind of propels him to go on to his training. But it makes sense for him to be so passionate about it at this time to prove himself to be like a superhero, because again, he's not trained. It just doesn't make much sense unless he had some superhero abilities that Donna has. I mean, even Donna admitted that it took her entire life, even with superhuman abilities, to be where she is at right now. So, yeah, that was a big leap and a big stretch, and audiences should know that's not going to be the case. It's not going to be so easy for him to obtain, the Robin mantle.
Yeah. So I don't mind the passion. I just they don't need to write another Robin character as irrational, though. Him being passionate. They showed him all season. They didn't show a lot of him, but they showed him as smart and seemingly level-headed. And I understand that he's passionate about this, and he's been following Batman and Robin, the first one and the second iteration. So he thought in his mind he should be Robin. That's fine, but there's passion and there's like common sense. And again, this is another character that they're writing in a way that's not that doesn't make any sense. They could give him his hero moment in the next episode without him acting like a ridiculous person in this episode. Like beyond combat training, there's like all kinds of other training that Batman does with Robin right. to fight in a situation with people that have guns when they don't use guns, and evasion techniques and all this sort of stuff. It's like, what is he going to do? Is he just going to pick up a gun and start shooting people? Because that's what his father was trained to do. Like, but he wants to be Robin, right? So I don't know. I don't understand why I feel like they just had to have these characters have dialogue because they were in the same place, and I feel like they should have come up with better dialogue for them to talk about besides them sniping at each other. Anyway,
right.
So they come up against a blockade, and they I guess he has sort of a hero moment in that. Well, that's not true. What happens? I think that he opens up the back, and then she comes out and hits the police officer, and then his dad gets out and shoots at the police officers at the roadblock. So that I think that's where we end things. Did we go back to them, or is that I think that's where we end things?
I don't think we ever got back. Yeah, I don't think we ever went back to them because I think the episode ended with Conor and Blackfire and Koriand'r.
Right. So we also have a little bit with Barbara. We found out I think in the last episode that Barbara was being held in captivity, and in this episode we see that Crane is taunting her every morning, which we didn't know from the last episode. So she escapes and attempts to reactivate Oracle, and then that's the last that we see of her. I don't know. I mean, like, as we said several weeks ago, Oracle was her moniker in the comic books. I feel like she's not going to go back to being Commissioner Gordon after all this, and then she's just going to become Oracle or whatever. She's the one who destroyed Oracle, and then she rolls in there asking, are you not dead? No, you asked it to destroy itself, but whatever. I don't understand.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me because, like, I thought that was already destroyed. What is it, like some sort of they are highly sophisticated artificial intelligence, like a Jarvis or something like that, where they can reactivate it so magically. It's like that makes no sense because you activated the thing and destroyed it.
You asked it to destroy itself. If there was a recoverable way, if there was a way to recover it, it would kind of defeat the purpose of you asking it to destroy itself. Whatever.
Yeah, so that did not make much sense. It's like, why is it that then if you're going to work backwards anyway, like say, okay, there's going to be some way for you to there's got to be some way for you to reactivate Oracle, right?
Yeah, they could.
So if you're going to go backwards you're going to work your way backwards. Shouldn't you just say that? Okay, yes, it was destroyed, but there's like some sort, like maybe a lie gets thrown in there. Fail safe or something like that.
They were missing. They were missing the techno. So what they call that in Star Trek is techno babble, right? They have some sort of unsolvable problem, but they write a couple lines of techno babble, like we're not going to be able to get this, but if we do this and this and reverse the polarity or whatever, then we can do it. But she's like, turn back on. What do you mean turn back on? You destroyed it. Anyway,
makes no sense. No sense.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's where we leave. That's where we leave her, and then we have the Blackfire, Conor, and Koriand'r story. So Blackfire meets up with Conor, and and he convinces her. She convinces him to leave the Titans because of what Robin did. I mean, he did kind of do him dirty in the last episode.
He did.
Blowing kryptonite dust all over him. So he at this point he's in love with Blackfire. If you remember from the last two episodes ago, he asked about Gar and he asked about Blackfire. And then Conor and then Dick did that to him, and so I think he's leading with his heart at this point, especially given what he does at the very end of this episode. So they go to the government facility to sort of exact revenge on this guy, who was holding her, and we find out that he didn't destroy her ship, so the ship is still there. And then Koriand'r shows up because she says that, she said that she had some unfinished business. So, I mean, she doesn't live on this planet. So the only person that she would have unfinished business with is the government guy. So it's got kind of obvious it was obvious where she would go. So that's actually pretty good, decent writing. It's like, you don't know anyone else on this planet except for the guy who was keeping you captive. That's the only person you would have unfinished business with. So she gets there, and then she explains what we learned in the last episode, that Blackfire's power was given to Koriand'r. They make up, and she decides to go home, and Conor pouts and says that he doesn't want her to go home because your people didn't want you. Now you say you don't. Now you say you want to go because you were born to be a queen or whatever. I kind of understand where he's coming from. Like, I feel like this is new information that she didn't have, but there's a couple things. without Koriand'r going back and vouching for her, which she says she doesn't want her to do, why is the whole population of a planet going to believe Blackfire? They believe her to be a villain. Villains lie about all kinds of things. Why would they? She's going to go back. She's going to go back and gain the trust of these people by what? By doing what? Just saying that my power is so. I mean, she will have.
I have the power. I have the power.
I mean, she will have the evidence of actually having the power, right? Like she will have the power. So that I think that will help her because she has her power was restored.
Right.
But she also has the history of them not liking her or hating her. So I don't understand why she feels so obligated to them. Like before, I thought that she wanted power, right? She wanted the throne, right. But they explained during the season that she didn't want power. She just wanted to stay alive because her parents are going to just feed her to the masses because they blamed her. They blamed them for Koriand'r not being there. So she killed them out of survival, not because she wanted to take the throne. So it doesn't make any sense why she wants to leave. But she wants to leave. You know what? She's her own person. Right. She's her own person, and she gets to make that decision. Yeah. Right. Sorry. So what'd you say?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense for her to leave because, when I saw that, I was like, what is going on here? Like she got the powers, right, from Starfire, from Koriand'r. She got the powers. But then because of that, it changed her mind, and then the story, how does she know that Koriand'r's not lying to her? Like, how is she so gullible? Like, what's going on there? So and then she came up with a response like, oh, I've been I've been missing something. Okay, all right, I can forgive that type of dialogue, but leading up to it just didn't make the steps leading up to it did not make sense for me, for me to go back, and I really felt for Conor because it's like, well, they had a good thing going, and they were going to do like this partnership and stuff, and I thought that would be pretty cool, but then she finds out the truth from Koriand'r, and it's like, oh no, I'm just gonna go the complete opposite. 180, I'm gonna 180 you, Conor, and then basically like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave you because I don't feel complete, and it's like, wait a second, 180, it's like a complete 180 going around. Like, you don't kind of do that to a character that quickly. I mean, it gets developed over a long period of time, doesn't it?
Yes, I will say that she definitely she was in the same day. Her reactions to him were sort of like whiplash, and I can understand someone being upset about that. That being said, his reaction was toxic. Irresponsible.
That is true.
Irresponsible.
That is true.
If he didn't want to help, he didn't have to help. He shouldn't have. He should have just not helped, and they would have figured out some other way to get her off the planet. Like, because the power cell or whatever was damaged, but they had his super strength and whatever to create the power adapter or whatever they were creating, the power source. If you didn't want to help, don't sabotage her ability to ever go. I mean, why would she ever stay with you? How are you gonna act? You're gonna act like it was a mistake? Like, she's not gonna be with you on. She's stranded on this planet, and she's not gonna be with you. To me, I mean, I don't. That was when I saw that I also saw how the actor decided to play it. Like, you saw his anger or his disgust on his face when like Koriand'r was like, it's gonna blow, and he's like, yeah, because I wanted it to blow. It's like, there's a little bit of your Lex Luthor is showing there.
Yep. Exactly. That's the Lex part.
Because that was some calculated evil.
Yes, that was.
So it was a ridiculous thing to do, except for the fact that he's part Lex Luthor, and the actor sort of showed you in the way that he reacted that it was a calculated evil thing that he did. He just let his Lex part take over. And now I guess she's not going. I guess she's not going there. Are they?
Yeah, maybe that in the next season, or we are laying the groundwork for that Lex part to come out, and basically, and given what they've done to Jason Todd this season, I don't find that to be going to be very compelling because of how they've written Jason Todd. So if they're going to do Conor like that, well, the thing is that it probably won't be that good, unfortunately.
Yeah.
For him to be set up as the antagonist for next season.
I mean, we'll get to see tomorrow. Tomorrow is DC Fandom at 1 p.m. I believe it's like 4 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and we will see if they get a season 4. I think there's supposed to be a Titans. There's supposed to be a Titans announcement tomorrow, so we will see what the plan is for season 4 if they're going to get a season 4. But yeah, this season was a bit of a mess. Not a bit of a mess. It was definitely more of a mess than season 1, season 2. I mean, it had some highs but like a lot of lows. And putting aside what Conor did, and maybe they're saying that his Lex part is taking over. I feel like all this season they use his Lex part in a positive way, like because he's a genius.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But Lex is also self-obsessed and narcissistic, and maybe his ego was hurt because she decided to leave. I think that it was random and crazy for her to get to say that she's going to leave. But you know what? You don't get to react to someone else's decision in an equally like destructive way just because their decision doesn't make sense to you.
Yeah.
I mean, but going back to her decision, I think that the writers were basically saying, okay, we have to keep Koriand'r on this planet because she's one of the main Titans, but we also set up that she's supposed to be the queen. We're not going to keep this actress away on this planet because she's supposed to be a guest star this season. So these are the decisions we're going to have her make, even though they don't really follow the decisions that she was making earlier in the episode. So
yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that Blackfire is a very interesting character.
Yeah, I would actually like to see her stay around.
Good things.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. There's definitely some potential there, but for her to be part of the Titans, hope maybe in the future. But I mean, right now, I think that she's probably gonna be not part of it, and maybe just go off on her own because again, Komand'r kind of did a really unfortunate move, kind of like in some ways, kind of like blow up her ship. So I think they're all going to go their separate ways, and maybe she's kind of on her way, like going off on her own and just be off screen for a little bit. Maybe we check in with her on occasion on 1 or 2 episodes in the next season. But yeah, I think I don't believe, based on what it looks like, that she may be a very significant person, but like they probably going to put her off a little bit, and then have her star in a few episodes here and there on her own.
I think she's
with somebody.
I think she's going to be gone by the end of the next episode. What they'll probably do is say that while the ship blew up, it was powered up long enough to connect to the home world, and then they realized the ship was there, and then they send the ship or something like that. That's probably what they'll do. But now she's like definitively going to leave him because he did that on purpose with not a whole lot of thought behind it. Because let's say they don't send a ship, then like she's just pissed and she's stranded on this planet. Like I mean, it made no sense what he did except for the evil. And except for it was evil, right. and he's Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor does evil things, or he's half Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor does evil things.
Easy to write about. That's easy to write.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I didn't think this was as successful as the last episode, but I think as the episodes, as surveying the 12 episodes, it was one of the better of the 12. I don't know if I would put it in the middle, but I think I'd probably put it in the top 4 or 5 of the episodes of the season.
Right.
Just because at this point things make more sense and they're not doing random things. As I said last week, and like as you said, no one heard us say this last week, but like this season is written like a streaming show. Like if you were binging it, it would be better, but because it's week to week, it's really poorly written because they don't know when to stop and end the episode. They don't know what information should be in an episode and what information should be in another episode. But if you were binging it, it would be fine. But I guess someone will come to these episodes later on and binge the entire season, and maybe their experience will be better with the season. So next season, regardless of what they announce tomorrow at DC Fandom, I think we should probably review these like in chunks every 3 episodes or so. Or every 4 episodes, because I don't think I think following it week to week is sort of a waste of time. Because especially if they're going to continue writing it like this. If they're going to continue writing it like this, you kind of have to ingest a couple episodes at a time, because otherwise it's just going to frustrate you week to week.
Right. Yeah, I do agree with you on that. I think that my first foray into Titans, it's kind of been very uneven, because again, I'm used to watching the DC animated universe and all the animated shows that DC had in the past. This is my first, again, like I said, my first foray into that streaming. You know, I haven't even watched some of the TV stuff, like none of the TV stuff, but you know, this is my first part into live action without watching it as a movie. So it's been pretty uneven so far, kind of like the DCEU in many ways, very uneven. Some great stuff, but then there's some stuff that doesn't make any sense. There's some questions here, there's some plot holes here, there's some bad writing here, there's some great writing. You know, one thing that I do want to say is that at least the titles are okay. In many ways, the titles make sense, which you know, I do give him credit for that. I
mean, Prodigal does make sense for this episode, but again, he shouldn't be accepted as the prodigal son. He hasn't done the work. But sure, yeah, it makes sense. Next episode. Now that you speak about episode titles, the next episode is called Purple Rain for some reason.
Oh gosh.
So I don't know.
Is that a Joker reference? I mean, that's probably a Joker reference. So is Joker going to return?
Maybe, but like,
yeah,
Batman killed Joker. Like, no one dies this season, and they just kill a bunch of people, and everyone comes back except for Hank. Like, that sucks for that actor, right? That actor's he's the only one who lost his job in this season. Like, I don't know.
Hey, you never know. I mean, they might re-explore that, because they kind of left that open. So they
sort of left it open, but they also kind of put a pin in it, because he went off to like be Hawk and Dove with his dead brother in the afterworld. So I feel like that's how they wrote like the end of his arc. And I don't know. They also wrote Dove out of the show as well. So both of those actors lost their jobs this season. I mean, if they're bringing people back willy-nilly from the dead, I don't know. I see no reason for Jason to be in the show anymore. At the end of the season, I don't know what they're going to have him do. He can't be part of the Titans anymore. Like Dick said it specifically. He said you can't be the part of the Titans anymore. So I don't know. We shall see what they do at the end of the season. They have one episode to wrap this all up. And I guess we'll also see a preview of season 4 if they get a season 4 from DC Fandom. So, yeah.
Right.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
One final thought is about him being in the Lazarus pit again, like Dick is. He was in a Nightwing costume. He came out in civilian clothes. It doesn't make any sense. Again, continuity. Come on, man. It's like with the clothes continuity. You can do. I mean, I can forgive it if it turns small clothes with the bat. Fine, all right, okay, I can forgive that. But come on. Continuity there is a little inconsistent.
I didn't even see that. It's just I think I was still tripping on what I was still hung up on the weirdness that he was seeing when he was tripping in the afterlife. It's like, okay, and that means what? And what is that supposed to mean to the audience? And what am I supposed to take from this?
Yeah.
All this weirdness, seeing his father, and then seeing him be. I didn't even notice that he came out with street clothes. But
and then Crane didn't really have a role like this. This whole thing. His face all cut up, and then he tried to threaten Jason, and that was pretty much it.
He taunted Barbara at the beginning as well. So that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Well, that is what we think of this episode, but we are interested to hear what you guys think. So please comment down below, like and subscribe for more content like this, and we will see you next week when we talk about the last episode of Titans. All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.